I'm quite quietly stubborn. I really don't let something go if I really think I can get it.
Yeah.
Even like putting furniture together, I
just leave the house.
Dan will be like, it's good enough. It's fine. We're missing a few bolts, but it's okay. And I'm like, no, I'm taking it apart.
Yeah.
And I'm going to do it again because I can do this. I don't know if many people would see that in me because it's quite a quiet determination, but I'll just quietly get the work done.
What if success in education wasn't about grades or titles, but about joy, curiosity, and lifelong learning? Today's guest has lived that pathway. Our guest is Steele, an educator and leader whose story shows that possibility often begins with the people who believe in us. Ellen remembers the teachers who went out of their way to help her thrive. From there, Ellen's pathway unfolded through curiosity and courage. She began an arts degree before switching to teaching, spent years in the classroom, completed a master's, and now works in educational leadership, shaping learning for others while staying deeply connected to her own love of education.
So what unique lessons will you learn? In this conversation, Ellen reflects on how her view of education has evolved. From something linear and institutional to more of a lifelong process of joy and growth. She also speaks to the power of advocacy, especially for any of our listeners out there, how parents can support and champion their children in simple, everyday ways that make a profound difference. Ellen reminds us that success isn't just about outcomes. It's really about the process, the people, and the belief that learning never truly ends. So, welcome to this episode of More Than a Score. Was that all right, Laura?
I think so.
Ellen, we've got a tradition where you think of something that you think's really great about each co-host. It's bonus content. So if you'd like to tell us something, you can start with me if you want.
Oh, I mean, it's bonus content for just...
Oh, sorry.
Sleep each night.
I call it, it's my affirmations.
It's affirmation.
Yeah.
Great things Ellen thinks about.
All the things. Welcome to More Than a Score, Ellen. It's lovely to have you on here.
Thank you.
You can think of your affirmations all about me and maybe Laura if you would like to at another time. But I'm really lucky. I get to do the introduction for you. So, and we also have some video going here too. So I'm trying very hard not to get distracted by that. So, Ellen, worldly adventurer and traveller, a calculated risk taker, a calculated positive risk taker. Quiet, humble, very high achiever, lover of books, sponge of knowledge, not just sponge, educator, leader, and expert in learning interventions, school prefect turned senior leader in education. Ellen, it is absolutely lovely to have you on this episode today.
Thank you, Dan.
Oh,
Very official.
very
It's like your phone voice.
Yeah.
And I guess, look, you've heard some of our previous episodes. So something that we like to kick off is when you think about the time when school finished up, were you happy with the score?
Yes. I like learning. I love school and I was very diligent. So I worked very hard and I got the score that I thought I would get, which, was kind of in, the similar levels to my friends and the environment I was in. I'd had a sister come 4 years before me who was a very high achiever. So it was always kind of, that was my marker of success. I know you guys talk a lot about what your markers of success is or are. I was well prepped and I got what I wanted and what I needed. So that to me was great.
So it's so fascinating to hear that someone that I see as an incredible high achiever, you're then looking at other people going, oh, that's my mark. Like, I think they're a high achiever.
Yeah.
So I just wonder if that's just what everyone around the world's almost doing.
And I don't feel personally that I pick things up as quickly as other people. I feel like I have to, it might not look like it, but I feel like I have to work hard for the knowledge to sit in my head. There's people, like the person next to me, who can sit there and listen to things and just absorb it and they get it. And I had multiple friends at uni that would sit in lectures, not write a single note. Same at school, not write a single note and get like better scores than me in exams or tests or essays or whatever. And I felt like I had to work really hard. Like I knew how to work hard, which was lucky, but I felt like I had to write every note, I had to revise, I had to do all of that to get a similar score. So I was always a bit frustrated by that. Now I see it as a strength because I really do absorb knowledge because I'm so diligent with that research and that thinking of it. Like it's not as hard as some people. I know some people really, really struggle with learning, with knowledge, with retaining that information. But I do feel I have to work for it probably more than people think I do.
I was just considering, because I had the opposite experience. I was the oldest, so I went first. So I had no preconception. Do you think that's a positive, negative? Like how do you place that experience of having someone come before you and having an understanding? Because I also remember my sister came 3 years behind me and I would sit with her and I was, looking at going down teaching anyway. So I would tutor her and I remember watching how much she worked and being like, oh, is that what people do? Because I didn't study like that. Is that a lot of pressure when you've seen someone perform that well? Is that really empowering? Like, I've seen this done before. Like, how does it sit with you?
Yeah. I love your questions. This is why we're friends. You always make me think.
It's like she should do that.
I was really thinking when you were talking to the point that I forgot my notes. I was just like, I'm trying to figure out how I want to ask that question.
Yeah, both. It was really helpful to have somebody go ahead and go, oh, okay, that's what that looks like, and that's the next step, and then that's to help you kind of navigate the world and make sense of the world was really, really helpful. But also it maps a path that I think particularly when you're younger you feel is the path rather than is their path. And you can diverge from that or, so for me it was, okay, you go to school and then you go to uni. And then luckily my sister went on exchange. I went on exchange.
Right.
And I made a purposeful choice to go somewhere else so that we did have a different experience with that. But then when we kind of got out of uni, I was a bit like, oh, we've gone into different professions now. What do I do? And it was a bit more open. So, I think it is a blessing, but it is also kind of sometimes you get set on a path or a process that I don't think it limits you, but it just, you kind of go in a narrower direction maybe than you would if you were the first one going and everything's open.
Yeah. I remember when my sister was going to buy a house, I remember her asking me, well, how old were you when you bought a house? And I said, she goes, oh, I'm not that far behind. And it was the first time that I was like, what do you mean? I'd not considered that she'd come behind me and had, that's why I'm really interested in your perspective on it.
I think I would know every age that my older sister did something.
Wow.
Do you think then with your younger siblings, are they similar?
Yeah.
Oh,
sexually, isn't it?
thought about it.
It's funny, isn't it?
Probably.
Yeah, are you a marker for them?
Yeah, probably.
Because you're one of 4.
I'm one of 4. My brother's quite close in age, so I wonder whether because we kind of shared similar experiences almost at the same time.
Yeah.
And he had very different interests and that kind of thing, so whether that didn't come into play so much. And then my little sister's so much littler. I'd have to ask her.
Yeah.
I think probably, yeah. I think there's probably always markers, but maybe because she'd had so many other examples come before her.
Yeah.
It wasn't just one.
Yeah,
there was 3 of us.
Yeah,
she's like, oh well, I could go anyway, because this person did this and this person did this, so it might be less that pathway. Yeah.
When you reflected on education, you had 3 words, and they were individual, exciting, and vital. Can you give me some understanding behind those choices?
Individual has come later on in my life. I think I probably had a very set view that everybody was experiencing education the same way. And it's only with my learning as a teacher and, as Dan said, an interventionist and thinking about learning difficulties and disabilities that I just am blown away how individual education is. Vital because I do see institutions as vital, but I don't mean education in just that sense. I mean education is that curiosity and always learning, whether it's about the world, whether it's about what you're doing or other people or, all of that. So I kind of see how can you progress with anything unless you have that education. And exciting because it's the work I'm in and I just love it. I was talking to someone today about, some of the reading things and this and that. And I start sparking. I'm like, oh, I'll share this podcast with you and I'll share this research and I can I'm always a little bit like, and this person today was excited by it, but I'm always a little bit like, why isn't everybody like, this is amazing, and don't you want to know about how we learn to read and how we learn to do maths? And so I still just get really excited about it.
What's the thing that excites you?
I did psychology at school and I really loved it, and I think it's that understanding of the human experience of it and the human experience of learning, and why we learn some things, why we can't learn other things, how our individual context, how our attention spans, how our wiring in our brains, how our formative experiences from when we're, born, even before born, all of that impacts how you learn. And that's why it's also individual, because there's no two things that are, even if you're an identical twin, you still have different experiences, and that will impact your learning. Everything comes back to learning for me and how you navigate the world. And I just find that fascinating. It's like a detective novel. Like it's, why is that kid doing that thing? And then you've got to unpack it and try to put the pieces together. And when you do, it like clicks and you go, and that's how I can get them to the next step. So that's what I love about it.
And I've heard you as well describe when you're a prep teacher, I can imagine too, the excitement is like you used to describe and say a kid couldn't read the day before, and then suddenly they've just unlocked, like what you were just saying, they've unlocked.
Yeah.
And that's life-changing.
And it's literally, preps are amazing. They're such hard work to teach, or foundation, I think they're now called. But you literally get 6 months in, and most preppies, some won't, some take a bit longer and some will take even longer still. But for that kind of mainstream bell curve, most at about 6 months in, you'll see something like you've been teaching them sounds, you've been teaching them words, you've been doing it every day, and you'll see something click and they go, oh, that's like words and I can read them. And then I can read a book, and then I can, and before then they're just kind of learning these random things, and it's really exciting. And you say that to parents and they go, yeah, I just saw it. I saw it click. Like, they got it. And you guys would have seen it as teachers too. When a kid gets something, there's nothing better. That's the best thing about being a teacher.
I'd love to circle back to the idea of individual.
Mm-hmm.
I think there'd be lots of people out there that feel as though there's not as much individualization in the classroom. I know this is something you're super passionate about, really excellent at. Can you talk to parents and to students who maybe feel as though they're on this conveyor belt? Maybe the education system doesn't feel as like it's targeting them as much as they would like it to. How can they access that idea of individualized education?
I think, and Dan and I talk about this a lot, I think always first and foremost it's go and talk to the teachers, because they are there because they want to be there for the kids. And sometimes you're busy and you've got marking and you've got planning, and they might not be quite aware of what's going on under the surface for kids. Kids are really good at masking if they're upset or if they're not struggling, or, they're really good at it, and they can go under the radar. So I think always it's go to the teacher and saying, look, this just isn't hitting the mark. This is not how I learn. And I think we're getting much better at that student agency and student voice, and giving students the words so that they know how to advocate for themselves, and to be able to say, actually, I'm much better when it's a little bit quieter in the classroom, and it's been really tricky with all the noise going on. Is it possible that we could kind of have some quiet? But kids have to first identify that in themselves, and as you guys know with parenting, that's what it's all about. It's about tapping into what are my needs and how do I self-regulate, but then able to express that. And then that's how you can get the individualized. So there's a lot of steps. That's why it's tricky.
Yeah.
But that's also where I see parents as advocates too. You know your kids, you know what they need. Get them to talk to you, and then you then advocate for them in a really respectful way and saying, look, this learning environment's really not working for them. How can we work together to make sure that they're getting the learning that they need?
When you've seen people advocate really well, or you've seen it in your work as an educational leader, what is it that helps a parent advocate really well and have that conversation go well?
I think know what the ask is. And I know that's hard for parents because sometimes you don't know. but I think it's kind of going, well, and Dan, with your background, always asks me, if this was working really well, what would it look like? But thinking that first as a parent, if this experience in the social group for my kid, or if this experience in the classroom, or if this experience in assembly, maybe they're acting up in assembly and you keep getting called to the office and you're not sure, but if that was looking really well or really good, what would it look like? And then working out, and this is the interventionist in me, backwards mapping that. Okay, so we want them to be, maybe they're a school refusal, and we really want them to come have a soft landing in the morning. Okay, great. What do we have to do for that? Well, first we need to get them in there with something that they're really keen to do. If they're getting overwhelmed with all the other kids in the classroom in the morning, okay, so maybe I've got to get there a bit earlier, and they just go in one-on-one with the teacher and they have a job that they have to do. That's what I used to do sometimes with my little preppies who really didn't want to come in, because then they feel important, they have a soft landing, and then their friends start to trickle in and they've got that kind of great easing into the day. So I think it's firstly thinking about, okay, well, what's the problem, and then how can who in the school can I tap into, because there's brilliant people in schools. They're amazing. So
it sounds like there's a few based on what you've said. So it's like, be clear of what it is you're actually asking for. And then there's getting clear on what would that look like. And then just to check, when you say backwards mapping, you mean like know what the end result is and then break it into small parts that will add up to that. And then see the fourth one you just said then was, and see if there's like people you can tap into or resources in the school.
And I would say, with that backwards mapping, that's the way I kind of think of anything with parenting, like we're doing with toddlers at the moment that has had a sleep regression. So and really wanting me in the room. So it's backwards mapping. Okay, I don't want to sit in the room for an hour every night. So how do I kind of go, eventually I want to be out of the room, and what are the little steps, incremental steps, because I can't just go from sitting there an hour because she's really distressed to completely removing myself. That's too big a step for her little brain. So it's, okay, well, what are the little steps that I have to put in place to slowly move to where I want to be, but still make sure that she's got that scaffolded.
It's funny, listening to you, I try and channel Laura's superpower of getting threads. And something that I'm noticing is this idea of advocacy, being an advocate. So I'm really, I was thinking about the journey that you've had. So what we've got here, so you graduated from high school in 2003. You did a year of arts, and then you promptly changed tact. You then transferred to primary school teaching, not what your older sister did.
No.
Here you go, your path.
I know.
Then became a primary school teacher, and during that time lived and actually taught in a remote Aboriginal community for a few years. And we should say, full transparency, I am your husband.
We should have said that from the start.
So just so I'm saying, I'm looking down at notes like I don't know what's going on. But then the incredible thing, so this is me crossing over between being husband but also like podcast host. So you got a master's in learning difficulties, but you finished that while you were heavily pregnant, and you actually walked across the stage at Melbourne University to collect your master's degree. Was it 2 days or 3 days before you had our second?
3 days.
Yeah. Okay. So there's a determination. Well, and then you've had 3 kids within that time, crossing the stage. You got your master's just right before we had our second child. Like, as you hear of all of that, there's a lot in there. And if I can add one more thing. So I was reading through when you completed the form that we always send out to everyone, and there was a quote that jumped out to me. He said, when you're talking about a teacher, he said, he saw how I was always the advocate for younger students.
Oh, yeah.
It was the first time I saw that was a skill I could lean into.
Well done, you, Dan.
Look at me.
That's a good link.
So I'm really interested. Talk to me about why learning difficulties and how you see advocacy playing such a big part that you've learnt into it.
Oh, I've never picked that up before. Yeah, and it was interesting because in preparation for this, I kind of went back through some of my school reports, which I have to tell you was fascinating. If you haven't gone back in your 20 years school reports,
I'll put that in for a thing.
That would be super interesting.
It's really interesting because it's everything I am now, and things I'd completely forgotten about. Like, I volunteered in Year 11 to go on the Year 7 camp because we could, and we were like a senior leader. I was like, wow, that was yeah, of course I was going to be a teacher, but it wasn't obviously clear at that stage. But I always really enjoyed, like I'd run the school drama with the younger students and I'd do all of that. So I always really enjoyed that, which is how I kind of decided on teaching, because it was the one thing in the course book that I was like, yeah, I could see myself doing
Can you
that.
tell me about that? You're a teenager.
Mm.
I would say most teenagers are pretty egocentric, really want to spend time with their friends, and you're there already at that age wanting to give back and wanting to be part of like a younger community. I mean, whether or not you meant to be, you were clearly some kind of role model for these young kids or younger kids. What was the draw for you to go and do that? There's no way I would have given up a social event to go to a Year 7 camp. Let me understand.
I don't think I saw it as giving back. Like I always coached netball and I was always doing that kind of. I just really enjoyed it. I just found it really like it gave me energy, and it's the same now. Like hanging out with kids, I just really enjoy. I just find them funny, and I like that there's no airs and graces with them, and you can just kind of relax a little bit. Sometimes with adults, you've still kind of got to be on your best behaviour and you've got to think about what to say. And kids, you can just say silly things and they just laugh or they go, oh, you're an idiot. And I think I always enjoyed that. I could just enjoy being in their presence. It's very mindful for me. My brain goes a lot. And I think being with kids, you have to be mindful. Mm-hmm. And that's what I think parenting brings into most people, but you know, when you're a teacher as well, you just have to be present because kids make you present. So I think I always enjoyed that. It just, grounded me, and I still enjoy it. I still love hanging out with kids. I think they're fab.
Well, I mean, they keep you young, right? Like that's the funniest thing. Like,
I
always have one of my mentor teachers say that they're like the best thing with working, and it might be different with Year 9 boys that are Friday afternoon. Don't get me wrong. But there is a very unique sense that when you go in, there's a different kind of energy in schools, right? Like because they're young people. There's something that's pretty special, which having stepped out of schools now, you realise that's really quite rare.
It is. It is.
Elle, I'm really interested to hear about the tell us a moment when you've seen advocating and advocacy make a really positive difference. And it might have been in personal setting, it might have been in a professional setting, but just the way that you've seen it make a really positive impact, because what you just described sounds like it's really important to you, and it's something that you've lent into since leaving school as part of your pathway.
I think it's, with lots of friends and family going into schools and with their kids going into schools, and there's bumps along the way for every child. Like every child has something that they bump up against, whether it's a disability or a learning difficulty or a social issue or whatever it is. And I think what I really enjoy is talking to parents and giving them permission to, if you haven't been in the school system for a while, I think parents feel it's a very closed door sometimes. When teachers, it's always like all the teachers I know, it's open door, come talk to me. Absolutely. So giving them that permission to walk through the door, I think they feel like, oh, but I'm not the expert. I don't know what happens all day. But to give them the permission, no, you're the expert in your child. You know when they're upset. You know when their behaviours are changing. You know when they're facing difficulties. I think that's when I see the advocacy really, working really well, because that's when the parent walks through the door with the student and they become a team with the teacher rather than pitting everybody against each other and not understanding it. And that's all teachers want, to just understand the kids more, which the parent has the insight in.
Yeah. I just wanted to jump in terms of like how to broach those tricky conversations, if you don't mind. We've had these conversations, even just as mums, social settings and things like that. But I find a parent coming in and saying, this is what I'm noticing at home. This is what we're hearing at home. What's happening here is a really good way of starting that advocacy conversation, because it's not like defensive, it's not accusatory. It's like, this is what we're hearing. This is what's happening for us. Yeah. And I think that sort of starts to create the building blocks of like community advocacy as well, instead of just it's the pitting against each other. I just think sometimes the how is helpful.
Yeah, and I also think the preemptive. So, and Dan and I talk about this a lot, we probably come in earlier than maybe other parents if we've got a question or something's bubbling away. But we say that to the teacher, say, look, we know this isn't a big issue, but we just want to come in now and want to talk about it and get something in place or talk it through or, you know, do some checkpoints so that it doesn't escalate. And I think being proactive with that, teachers love that. They go, oh, great. Yeah, I'll keep an eye on it. Actually, it hasn't been on my radar, but I'll keep an eye on that and I'll let you know and see how we go. And then if it is something that is an issue, we can definitely talk more rather than really feeling like, oh, no, I shouldn't go in and bottling it up. And then it becomes this big issue and the teacher goes, I didn't even know. I wish you'd told me. I could have done something about it. So, you know, there's little touch base and it's harder as the kids get older at school. Parents don't come in as much. And it's harder as a teacher with that. You don't see the parents as much. Yeah. But, you know, being respectful and respectful of the teacher's time, I think is really important too. And making sure you're catching them. Oh, look, do you mind if we have a chat tomorrow? Or, you know, not when they're on the hop trying to do 1,000 other things because they are. I think that's a really great way to get the outcome that you're after, which is, you know, better learning and better environment for your student or your child.
Yeah. And it's your job as the parent to speak. I think that's something we often say quite a bit is they're your kid.
Yeah.
You've got the right to speak up and listening to you though, it sounds like show up respectful, trying to partner with the teacher and do it early. Like so many people get worried about being that.
Yes.
I'll put it in air quotes.
Yeah.
But you're not, if you're doing it for the right reason and people genuinely know.
And in the right tone. Yeah. You know, you're that parent if you're coming in kind of aggressive and that's probably from frustration and teachers know that. You know that's from frustration or that's disappointment or whatever the feeling is. But a parent that comes up and goes, oh, look, I'm really worried about that is never
that parent.
Yeah. You know, ever.
Loz, is it okay if I ask one thing? I want to tap into this great brain of Ellen's around learning difficulties.
Go for it.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
So I'm mindful now you're giving me a look.
I know. I'm like, oh, it's coming on.
It's more so I just think for the listener that's there and if they've got someone that's maybe either they definitely have, say, individual plans already or they may be worried that their child needs some extra help. Are there like some go-to places that they can look to or websites that you'd say, here's one that's a really helpful start to go get like more trustful information or trusting information?
Yeah, well, I think anything by the departments in your state are evidence-based research. There's a team of people behind them that put things up and make sure they're vetted and all that. And there's some really great things coming out at the moment. The other one, there's lots of good guidance on learning difficulties by AERO, which is the Australian Education Research Organisation. And again, that's done by looking at meta-analyses, so massive research data and kind of synthesizing it into a key idea or a key finding. So I always go back to research. What does the evidence say? And what's the current best practice in that? So kind of looking at those peak bodies, I think is always a really, really great place to start. The Queensland government did a really good autism strategy and Victorian government's got the Diverse Learners Hub and, you know, Sydney, New South Wales has got a really great website too. So that's where I start for that kind of evidence base because from there they will recommend other resources, but at least you know they're kind of vetted.
Show notes.
All those in. And I can imagine going to your point you just said before is if you can go find this thing that tells you here's some evidence and research that people have done, that can then set you up to have that more proactive conversation with the teacher. Say, hey, maybe can we talk about this for my child?
Yeah, definitely. And teachers love that, you know.
I would love to talk to you about the decision to leave the classroom, to move into the educational leadership roles that you're moving into. One of the very first conversations you and I had, I was still running from classrooms, picking kids up. I remember sitting with you in mat leave and I got to basketball. And it's the first time we really had a proper conversation and we both realised we were in education and teaching and you were talking about the fact that you'd moved out of the classroom and you were saying to me, and it was the first time I'd really sort of considered it, that sometimes that's just the natural evolution of an education career. Like we consider the fact we go into teaching, we stay in the classroom, we do the best we can in the classroom. But it was this really nice moment where you said to me, but that's still part of that journey and that it's just a different evolution or a different iteration of it. I was like, oh, I love that idea. So I want you to tell us about that decision.
Yeah, I think when you're a teacher, you're trained to be a teacher, you go into a school, you're surrounded by teachers, and I think I wrote this in my form that success is very linear. I'm a teacher, and then I'll move up to be a middle leader, and then I'll move up to be the AP, and then I'll be the principal, and then I retire.
I mean, we don't want to say institutionalization, but I've said it.
Yeah, but it's, because that's what you're surrounded by.
Yeah.
That is the pathway to success, in
quotes,
air quotes.
As an educator.
As a teacher. Yeah.
In that silo.
Yeah. And it's just the nature of schools because you go to the same school every day and that's just what you see. And I think I was lucky in maternity leave to be offered just a casual position at a university to do some casual sessions. I picked up another position there that was working with graduate students or, undergrad students and teaching. And it really opened my eyes to, I can still use all these skills, use this excitement in education, use my knowledge, use my teaching skills, actually. And even today, I'm still teaching. I'm still putting professional learnings together and I'm still teaching. It's just adults in education. But it just really opened my mind to how to use these skills more broadly. And it's a bit more of a kind of balcony view of education, which is what I'm really enjoying at the moment. And maybe I'll go back into a single school again one day. I do miss that. I miss the community. I miss that on the ground. I miss that implementation and seeing things in practice and doing all of that. But at the moment, I'm really enjoying this kind of strategic overview of education. I think it's really interesting. It's an exciting time in education too.
What's something in this role that you're the most proud of?
My current role?
Yeah.
I manage quite a few teams and I think bringing them all together has been really great and finding out what adult learners need. I've been so long focused on children and what their learning needs are, and I've got the curriculum for that and you follow the curriculum and I've got assessments for that and I follow the assessment and the assessment tells me I need to work on this and they don't quite have the th sound. Okay, we'll work on th. Adult learning, it's so much broader, so it's really kind of going, okay, well, what are their roles and where are the gaps and what's coming out and how can I link in with that? So that's what I'm finding interesting at the moment. It's another challenge.
Unintentionally, you started as a graduate teacher and then there's just that scale you go up. You become a coordinator, team leader, but something changed that helped you see that. You spoke about this opportunity to go work with university students. So I've had some friends that have been in, say, banking. I've had some friends that have been in accountancy and they've all been on similar treadmills. It's just going through the steps, but they haven't changed and gone on a different path. Help me try and understand what was it that helped you spot the opportunity and maybe actually take it, because I'm just thinking the listener.
Literally, I was one of those people too. In terms of the conversation we'd had, you were like, well, that's just for me, that felt like a natural progression. Did it? Yeah, 100%. I don't think it's just banking. I think it's...
No, anywhere. That's what I mean. But people are going to have so many different jobs and roles and careers, and there's something for you that made you go, well, yeah, no, I'm going to do this. Was there a moment when you went, yeah, I'm going to shift. I don't have to stay in a school.
I'm a weird mix
That's it.
of
She's
things.
just,
I'm just weird.
She's weird. She's weird, everyone.
In that I am, and Dan will know this.
I love it.
A weird.
I was quoting Ella. She's a weird. All right.
Weird.
Put it in the show notes. Just a weird.
I'm a weird mix of things in that I'm quite risk averse, actually. I don't like to jump into things unless I've thoroughly thought about it. I'm very conscientious. I contingency plan. I do all of that, and Dan will know that very well. But having said that, I also have faith that once I've done that, I'll be able to do something well. So I feel like I do have to do that planning and thinking and preparation, whatever it is. So we moved to a remote community and I lived overseas on exchange and I jumped into this university. But each of those decisions I really thought through and I weighed up and I, internalized. And then I had faith that, well, yeah, I'll be able to do it. So I think it's kind of I'm trying to get better at the risk analysis side and not over egging that, because I sometimes can be, get too into that. But I do have faith in my own kind of abilities, I think, which helps.
Laura,
to jump into things.
I'm so proud, Laura. I said calculated risk taker at the start.
You did, yeah.
So, but thinking of people, so it's like you do pros, cons, thinking like that.
Yeah, and I love a pros, cons.
And then there's something about you listening to what you're saying is so you can then spot an opportunity and you weigh up and say, is it worth the jump?
Yes.
And if you do enough of the think, then you jump.
Yes, and I think it's that opportunity, and that's kind of where I saw with the learning intervention and learning difficulty side. I felt I didn't have enough knowledge and there wasn't kind of enough out there for me as a teacher. So I did that master's probably earlier than it has all kind of blown up now, because there's lots of masters out there in that area, because I saw that opportunity for myself. And same with moving to a remote community. We saw that opportunity and we kind of jumped. And I think that was a big change in our career trajectory as well, because it stood us apart from other people. And people went, oh, okay, oh, what was that like? And that was kind of unusual, and it still is, I think, but wonderful. So I think it's jumping a little bit before I feel ready, but with enough of my own knowledge and understanding of why I'm jumping to feel okay. And that probably came from my parents, I think. My dad changed careers many times, and I think that was a really positive role model to go, just jump in, be prepared.
Yeah.
It was always calculated, but jump in and give it a go, and you'll be able to swim, really.
You said that you have faith once you've made the jump in the abilities that you have. What are those abilities that you have faith in that have shown up for you every time?
That I'm a hard worker. I can figure most things out if I read or spend enough time with things. And in your question, you're talking about memories from schools, and I remembered, and I'd forgotten about that I did math methods, and I did it because it was a challenge, and I did okay. I didn't do great. I got the score that I expected, but I worked really hard at it. And I think that was a really foundational thing, that I know I can work hard at something, and that I can really, I'm quite, as Dan said, quietly stubborn. I really don't let something go if I really think I can get it.
Yeah.
Even like putting furniture together, I
just leave the house.
Dan will be like, it's good enough. It's fine. We're missing a few bolts, but it's okay. And I'm like, no, I'm taking it apart.
Yeah.
And I'm going to do it again, because I can do this, and it's going to frustrate me. So yeah, I'm I don't know if many people would see that in me, because it's quite a quiet determination, but I'll just quietly get the work done until it's, to a good level. I'm not a perfectionist. I do it till I'm like, yep, that's great. I can tick that off, but I'll get it done.
You mentioned your family, your dad being a really important role model. Any other role models or any other advocates for you in this journey?
I've had a few amazing bosses that have become mentors, and I've really fallen into those. They're so lucky that I really rely on even now to show me the way about how to lead and what education can be, and visionaries. So that's been so lucky that I've had those. And I think always I learn so much from people around me, like all through high school, out of high school, uni. I just think I get a lot from seeing what other people are doing and touching base with them, and how did you do this and all of that. So the people I surround myself with, I like to think I surround myself with really good people and really authentic people. So that's who I kind of gravitate. Thus, you are, Laura.
In the circle.
In the circle.
Wow.
That, just real people that kind of go, yeah, I found this really hard, or, how are you finding this? And I really enjoy that real conversation.
Elle, I think there must be something about you though, because if you're going through all the different schools, work settings, teams, and then you always seem to have a boss or a mentor that takes an interest in you, there must be something about the way that you're showing up that shows an openness to it. Because I feel like that's also a little bit beyond luck in that you seem to be a common point where people are like, hey, I really want to support you with this. So you seem like, is it about an openness that you have with wanting to learn or seeking to get the mentoring? I'm just trying to think. It's not networking, but it's this thing of...
No, I think it is. I think it is a bit of networking, and I do intentionally network as well. And I don't see that as a dirty thing.
Help describe that, because in Australia, networking can sound like quite a
disingenuous.
So how do you see that?
And I think particularly in education, we don't see ourselves as networkers. No. But I remember seeing this really great podcast about weak links and the importance of, particularly in career, using weak links to talk to people or to get your next role or to get your next position. And a weak link is somebody that it might be your friend's friend is somebody in the field that you're interested in or has a job that you're interested in, and reaching out to them going, oh, hey, do you mind if we just have a quick coffee? I'd really love to pick your brain. And people love to share what they're doing. People love talking about themselves. They love to give advice. So I've always been okay with that. And I think people are really receptive to that. And so I just see that as a really beneficial thing. I think we need to do more of it, because that's how you make connections. That's how you find out about opportunities. It might not be a job right on the spot, or it might not be a contact that you talk to all the time. But, you know, I've definitely touched base with those people on an ongoing basis and go, oh, do you mind if we just, I saw this thing pop up. What's your thoughts on it? So I think that's a really important thing, those weak links, and that's a good thing.
I think you're very good, though, at connection. I think you're very good at making people feel seen. I think you're really good at, I don't want to say unassuming, but I do, like, in the best way. Like, you kind of connect with people and there's nothing...
transactional.
Yeah. Nothing intimidating. There's nothing judgment. I mean, like, you're, like, one of the most non-judgmental people. Like, I could tell you that I've done the most horrific thing and you'd be like... Of course you felt that. Of course, Laura. That was, you know, and it's just things like that I think, and you remember people and you remember their stories, and you're a really beautiful connector. And as someone who's sort of gotten to know you recently, you know, in the last few years as an adult, I think, you know, sometimes we forget that these, because they're so innate and they're so part of who we are, but I think that they're really special things. About you, and I think that probably speaks to the luck, I'm saying in air quotes, that maybe you're having with these bosses. Yeah.
I think also, it's funny, I went to a really good friend's party the other week, and I didn't really know many people, but, you know, I kind of went, and it's a very old friend, and she was so good at, I sat down and she was like, oh, I'm so pleased you're here. And then, have you met this person? And do you know that she does this? And Ellen, you do this. And then she's like, oh, I've just got to go over here. And then we started a conversation. Yeah. And so I think I've always had people around me that have that skill of connecting. And I think it comes from, well, what would I want?
Yeah.
I don't want to walk into my friend's party and she goes, oh, I'll be with you in a minute. And I stand there awkwardly and try to strike up a conversation. Lucky I could, because I can kind of find an easy in, but a lot of people can't, and that's really terrifying. So I just always, and same with that non-judgmental, I'm really glad you feel that way, because I just always think, well, how would I want someone to respond? I'd want someone just to listen and go, oh, wow, that sounds really hard. Oh, man. I do sometimes jump into advice probably quicker than I would like. I really admire people that just sit in it a bit more, but I think I'm getting better at that. So yeah, it's just thinking how you would like people to respond to you, I think.
Thinking of advocating. So something I'm really interested in is if we think of a parent or a student that's in high school. So what would you advocate for them to continue to tell themselves now? Given all this conversation we've had about what success actually looks like now, the learnings you've had, all this knowledge you have of the system, schools, education, learning, being a massive nerd in this space.
Such a nerd.
Yeah, but that's great.
Yeah.
So what would you advocate that they keep telling themselves?
I always come back to this thing I heard, and Michelle Obama, of course, but Michelle Obama was on a Glennon Doyle podcast. And I always come back to this as a parent, that Glennon Doyle asks, the world can be such a big, scary place for our kids. how do we make the world less scary and change the world so it's easier for them? Or how do we not harden our kids but prepare our kids for that world? And Michelle Obama said, in the long term, hopefully change the world. That's going to take decades. We don't want to toughen our kids up. That's not actually going to solve the problem. But what we need to do is create a safe landing at home where they can be truly themselves and truly safe. And I always come back to that when my kids come home and they've had a bad day or they've had this. And sometimes that advocacy is about going to talk to the teacher and all of that and making those little changes. But a lot of it is, you're great. You're a wonderful person. We love you. You're funny. You're smart. You're clever. You're kind. And making sure that they always can be themselves with us. So that bolsters them to then go out into the world where maybe they're not being told that, unfortunately. And we can't control what they're hearing all day, every day, unfortunately. I'd love to. I'd love to walk around with them and be like, what did you say to them? But I hope they carry that with them when they hear that from other people and go, but my mum thinks I'm kind.
And
my mum thinks I'm smart.
What about for a high school student? What would you advocate for them? What would you say, hey, this is a key thing to keep telling yourself, knowing what's ahead? Because school's just the start.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. And I think it's that idea that there is no one pathway. And high school is not my space. I was always primary school and I don't have older kids. And what I'm doing is I'm really looking at, we've got a few teenage kids around us through family and friends and all of that. And I'm watching those parents and, oh my gosh, they're amazing. What these parents, I don't know whether it's just parents these days or just the parents we get to observe, but the way they are personalising and helping their kids personalise their pathways is incredible. And what I'm noticing them is that they're really seeing their kids and they're seeing their individual talents. So I guess I don't really have any advice because I'm not in the space, but that's what I'm taking with me to make sure that my kids know what they're good at high school, what their interests are, and lean into it. Don't feel that, oh, but I really like this, but I should go do this. Because as you guys said, it's more than a score, and it's, leaning into what lights you up, what brings you joy. And obviously I found that it was, looking back, obvious what I was going to get into, but I didn't see it as obvious. But I was able to kind of follow a pathway to do that. But I think, figuring out what lights you up and finding out more about that. Doing the weak links, even as a 15-year-old. Go chat to somebody who's a friend of your parents who's kind of in that field and see if you like it.
Yeah.
Go do an internship. Go hang out with them for the school holidays and go, oh, actually, I do really like music producing, or I do really like being a chef, or I do really like this, and just getting a taste for it. I think be bold in that sense and have faith that you can kind of do it. But as I said, this is not my space, so it's all future.
Yeah.
It makes me think of TJ's advice that he was giving us in a previous episode, which was like, look for the interests, and then you also lean into those too. And I think you were mentioning music production. So the nephew, he's got a very different path. So he got really sick with school, couldn't continue in a different way, and watching my sister, the way she's just
amazing.
She loves
she's
music.
amazing.
So she's just sort of asked some questions, and now he's doing music production as a bit of a side thing, completely unexpected, which is pretty cool.
That's awesome.
But it makes me think as well, if it's all right to share one more thing around, like Steve Biddulph talks about that, like he described it as like sparks, and what sparks some sort of joy.
Yeah.
And I think that's really resonated too, is when it works well, we look and we spot little things, and that's the parents that I really look up to. Is the ones that are just taking the time to notice something that just gives you that little spark. Doesn't have to be massive yet, but at least you notice a spark and maybe fan it a little bit.
Yeah, and I think it's that fanning it. So how can you create the opportunity, the time, the space for your kids to embrace that spark? And that takes time, and that's hard. Like that's what I'm realising. I always kind of thought, the kids will need a lot of time when they're younger. And now I'm saying no. And a friend said it the other day, because we were saying, I want lots of time with them when I'm at home when they're younger, and then we'll go off. And she said, no, we want all the time. And you do. And that's what I'm seeing with high school kids as well. Like, you do want all the time with them, because that is when you can fan that spark and go, oh, you're you're really enjoying cooking us dinner every night. Is that something you've thought of? But
Let's get them to just
let's get them to
every
do that.
meal.
I've noticed you
That's
really like
cool too.
laundry.
I think you also like basketball. I think you should go to the WNBA. I mean,
I've noticed you like cleaning your room. Do you want to clean your room?
That's the advice. Do things and they can do things for us.
But, you know, that takes time and noticing and being seen. And I think I've heard a couple of your episodes, and that's what's interesting about a lot of their teachers is kids felt seen.
Yeah.
It was the same with me. I felt seen. Somebody says one thing that you go, oh, I never noticed that about myself, but you're right. So that's amazing if you can have even one person doing that.
Can I ask you to imagine something? Let's say your oldest daughter is going into year 12 and she's mapping out her pathway for success. I'd love you to imagine what you hope her perception of success is at that age.
Oh, I think it's that joy. It's finding something that lights her up, because work is long and careers are long, and something that lights you up now might not light you up later, and that's okay. But I think it's probably what I feel I've got internally in that success of I'll take an opportunity and I'll give it my best go, and I think I can probably do it. And if I can't, I've at least got a good mindset to turn it around into a positive. Oh, well, it was a learning experience. You know, that doesn't mean you never fail, but it means you might take something from it. So I hope that all the kids have that as a success, that even if I don't succeed or finish the work or get that exam mark, I know enough of myself that I can take a lesson from it that will enrich my life and I'll carry through with me. So yeah, I think that's what I hope for them.
A question we normally ask is about one new skill that you're currently focused on, or something that you're really wanting to learn more about.
I think it's, as I said, I love learning. I've always loved studying, and the last few years have been very on the ground, doing a job, doing the work and all of that. And I think I'm wanting to get back to that high level of study, not necessarily going back to uni or doing that, but just kind of a bit more rigour with what I'm reading, with that kind of strategic thinking and all of that kind of thing. I know that's kind of a broad answer, but less on the ground in it, and taking a moment back and going, okay, let's look at this with the bigger picture and kind of plot out where we want to go. So I think that's what I'm kind of
Develop
looking at.
mastery in something more.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks so much, Ellen, for being here. I really appreciate you coming on this pod.
Thanks, guys.
There we go.